It was a long journey.
Yeah. That really launched us. Both being able, and Anne worked at the Smithsonian as well for a bit, and then the National Building Museum. But both of us being able to start out at major national museums set us up to be able to find jobs in other markets together.
Welcome to the Red, Green, Blue podcast.
So I'm here with Anne and Jeff Lambson on the RGB podcast. We're really excited. Jeff is the deputy director at Utah State University Art Museum, and he was the founding curator of contemporary art at the BYU Art Museum. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you were at the UC Denver Museum?
Yeah, the last 9 years we were at University of Colorado in Denver, ran the art museums there.
University of Colorado, Denver. I should say Colorado. If I say UC, people will probably maybe assume California. But yeah, University, that's really great. Boy, and those are some of the best museums in our time zone. And Utah State's Art Museum is really great. Utah State's a little bit off the road, so I'm not sure a lot of people are aware of it, but it's pretty great. I've been to it a few times. I've been really impressed. So first of all, I just want to ask you, and they're married too. I want to be clear on that. So what is it like both working in the arts and being married?
Well,
the jobs are few and far between, and they're not always in the same city. I mean, that's just in that itself, that's a hard thing.
Yeah, that's dictated a lot of our careers. So we both started out in Washington, D.C. I was at the Smithsonian at the Hirshhorn Museum, which is the nation's museum of modern and contemporary art, and Anne was at the National Building Museum.
Yeah, and Mark, well, first of all, Mark, thanks for having us. We're really excited. We're getting plugged back into Utah after being gone for this last decade. And you hit on exactly, we were young coming out of grad school, and our decision-making was based on, we're both in the arts, what major cities in the U.S. have a large enough, if you will, art market to be able to have hopefully two jobs for, a job for each of us. So we had considered some, which led to major cities. And so we considered some different cities. Washington, D.C., we were visiting in 2000, May of 2000, sitting on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial is where we made that decision. This is the city we want to come to. So it took about a year to finish up grad school, save money, and move out there. So we moved this summer of 2001 to Washington, D.C., and that's where we started our careers, like Jeff was saying. Yep.
Amazing. You got jobs. You got a job at the Smithsonian, too.
Well, it was a long journey.
Yeah. That really launched us. Both being able, and Anne worked at the Smithsonian as well for a bit, and then the National Building Museum. But both of us being able to start out at major national museums set us up to be able to find jobs in other markets together. And we have kind of lucked out in places we've been.
Yeah. And I mean, certainly, like many others, we cobbled together part-time, temporary, and then bit by bit, then those became permanent, roles and full-time roles. And so that's what did, while we were in DC. And then really, as we have made each of our moves, typically it's been one of us has a position lined up, and then we go, and then the other will find, takes a little bit of time, but we'll find something.
Oh, wow. But it shows you both have skills. And that's something I've noticed about the art world. I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking your graduate degree is going to get you a job. But really, you need to have some hardcore, like a good experience with a good name behind you. And people will view that as more important than your degree. A lot of people
Well, I was just going to say, I still use my references from DC 25 years ago. They've become mentors, but yeah, that's been critical for me.
Well, and Mark just tapped into something that we talk to young people all the time who are thinking about careers in the arts, and they're asking for advice. And I always say, if you're looking for a field that has a linear, you start here, and then you're going to get to this point, to this point, to this point, it's not the field for you. That it's a very circuitous route that everyone, all of our friends and colleagues in the art world come at it from different paths. But that's what makes it so exciting, is that there's not one set path, but you have to be ready for that adventure.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, yeah. Oh, yeah, well, you certainly do. But again, especially, I do feel getting like a good internship, a good thing. It's a small, small world. And if you get up in that world at all, like working at the Smithsonian, everybody probably, they all probably know each other. There's only a few major museums. That's just, or they know the name.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, I worked for a director in LA that just a lot of people knew, and that really opened a lot of doors for me. Just
Yep.
was like, you can like, oh, I work for them. And they're like, oh, I know her, because it's a small world.
Yeah.
So
Arts are the same.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, and honestly, I think a lot of fields, the film world, I work in film, visual art, and in business and entrepreneurship, and I'm always surprised how small the world is. I mean, in each one of those fields, certainly in Utah, I can count on maybe fingers and maybe toes sometimes of all the major players. I
Yeah.
mean, really.
It's
So
true.
anyway, well, that's good. So you got that, and then so what got being the founding? What brought you back to Utah after that experience?
Well, we were in DC for about 6 years. My
6 years.
Anne got a job first at the Building Museum, which actually her experience in Provo working in childcare helped her get a job in an art museum because as you alluded to, lots of people have the degree, right? And
Yeah.
so what are those unique things that make you stand out? And it was childcare experience from Provo.
Combined with art history.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so then that really launched my career as a museum educator and brought those worlds together. But yeah, you were just saying.
Yeah, so then we were in DC, both loved our time there, and BYU approached us and asked us if we'd be interested in coming out to Utah. And so I started the contemporary program, which, as you can imagine, was
Controversial.
loved it. It was controversial. Yeah,
I
and
mean,
then
no, that's a hard. I mean, honestly, I'm always surprised how just photography has as a medium. I'm like,
yeah,
Yeah.
we named by City Weekly, which is a great Utah publication, as the most cutting edge contemporary program in Utah.
oh no, yeah. When you did some really great shows. In fact, this is a high compliment. I mean, really, this is a big compliment. I tried to get to New York every fall to see the shows because they put up all the museums, put up their new show, and like I did that trip, but you had to show up, and so I saw your show, and then when I saw the shows in New York, and I was like, you know, honestly, your show was up there. The Picasso Museum, the Picasso sculpture exhibit, the Museum of Modern Art is definitely the best show I saw. But you know, yours was up there, and that's pretty neat. You pulled that off in Utah.
We won't complain for being in the company of Picasso.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was more than that. It's really well curated. I mean, that's, you know, it's funny. I think, like, as people in the arts, they underestimate how important a good curatorial staff is. I mean, they think just, I mean, even the spectators, like to me, like, the best curatorial staffs in the world, and you can fight me on this, I don't know, but it's like, are the New York Museum of Modern Art and the Pompidou Center in France. Like, they have consistently strong shows and of high and general interest. Like, they mix them well. I mean,
They do a great job.
yeah. So, but anyway, so yeah, good curators are super, super important in any sort of art ecosystem, and it's really great having you around. And I think that's why you received, like, the Mayor's Award from Salt Lake City of Influence, and what was it? There was a couple others you got there. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you gave them on your resume, but like, you got like most influential people, which is really rare for like a curator. I mean, it's like, again, for someone who's kind of maybe sometimes more behind the scenes, that's something a politician would get or something.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I'll say about Jeff, I always say this. He's just like this ultimate connector and convener. And so I think one of his strengths, and that plays out and, you know, why awards come and so forth, is connecting ideas, connecting people, connecting organizations, and seeing opportunities that a lot of people don't see. And so I think that that's what's fun about watching him through his career, is how he brings together these unexpected groups and ideas, and that plays out not only in the shows that he does, but well beyond that in the community and the art community, and how organizations collaborate with one another.
Yeah, well, and also you must have a unique skill to, how can I put this? Like, you're like, you stick to what you believe, but you're not disagreeable enough that you're going to like really make people mad.
Well, it's interesting. I think you have a unique perspective being a filmmaker and an artist, because a filmmaker is sort of like being a curator, right? You're organizing a story, but you're highlighting actors. And being a curator is sort of like that. You're organizing a story, but you're pulling out the art to tell the story. And the key is just to find good art and good artists. And that goes such a long way.
Yeah, but still, I mean, again, it's like, again, people out listening and maybe don't have experience with the art world, artists can be harder to work with than you think. No, it's funny. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, yeah, it's just weird. Like, I'm always, you kind of like, oh, really? That happened? And then on the end, one time I was part of a portfolio, and I was like talking to the curator of it after it was done, and it was good. It got in a lot of things, and it was in a lot of shows and stuff. And I talked to him afterward. It's like, boy, it's so amazing. You coordinate so many photographers. And was that a lot of work? I mean, were there any problem people? She just kind of looked at me. I was like, oh, wait, I was probably a problem person, right? She's like, maybe.
You know what, though, I had this conversation with Adrien Gardere. He's the
Yeah.
architect of the Louvre in Lens, France. And I asked him, why aren't there more French contemporary artists sort of, on the scene, if you will?
Yeah.
And he said, to be an artist, you have to have a lot of pride because you have to feel so strongly about something that you've made and other people need to see it.
Yeah.
And then he said, the French are far too humble for that, which made me feel like, oh, really? Is
Funny.
the humility of the French?
That's true. Every time I'm in France, I'm like, what a humble, meek people.
Yeah, there are some amazing people in France, but it's
I'm being sarcastic.
oh, you're being
France
sarcastic.
is the only place where I've had a waiter make fun of my menu choice.
Oh, no.
On the roof of the Pompidou Center.
That's awesome.
I ordered something that was like, he's like, well, of course you'd get that. I'm like, I just don't feel like something fancy. I just want something normal.
I want some chicken tenders and ranch dressing. What's wrong with
It's like, I should have just pulled it further. It's like, actually, yeah, I want a hamburger. Come on.
It's true though, as an artist, you have to be so committed to your medium and what you're doing
Yeah.
that to be successful, you've got to have that commitment that other people need to see what you're creating, that you're going to affect lives.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of gumption and confidence in yourself. And
No, it's true. Well, and another thing about being an artist too, I think that just kind of a thing people overlook is that after you do it for a while, you begin to realize that you really aren't going to please people. I mean, you should just do what you want to do because that's primarily what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's the primary person you have to please. And so then you get to the point where you're kind of like, oh, you don't like my work? That's fine. I'll just go show it to somebody else. Or you want to adjust my work? I'm like, no, we're just done.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's what makes work strong is when you're committed to it because you have a vision
yeah.
and you're pandering to people.
Yeah.
I think in the film industry, like James Gunn, right? His films are popular and,
Yeah.
everybody loves him, but he has a unique vision, and he talks about not cowing to, the big movie companies because he has a specific story that he wants to tell and a way to do it. And I think that's why they're more popular than when you not more popular, more successful, as opposed to making something by committee.
No, it's true, and again, and that also, I mean, to maintain integrity in any project, I don't. Again, it always kind of surprises me, and you'll see if you're in the arts, like how people be like, "Well, I think you should do this and this." I'm like, "What?" like I don't tell you how to do your job. I've done this a long time too, right? You know, it's like, I mean, I can't imagine like walking to a dentist office and being like, "I just think you're doing those crowns all wrong." You know. So, yeah, I mean, again, that goes the whole thing. You have to have, like, some sort of confidence and, like, no, I'm just going to do it my way. And also, it's like, again, if it doesn't work out, again, early in my career, I remember I even had this professor tell me, like, what you should do is you should have a book of your portfolio and then change out the photographs to what you think the client's going to like. And I did that even on a major job. And I didn't put my best work, and I didn't get the job. And I was like, wait a minute. No, if I'm going to be rejected, I'm going to be rejected for what I do. And then the funny thing is they ended up hiring a photographer who did exactly what I do. Like, exactly.
Oh, no.
Like, I was like, I saw the ad campaign later. I'm like, what? No, they would have hired me if I just shown my work, not what I thought that they had wanted. And that's the last time I ever did that. So, fortunately, I mean, good. It's a good thing to learn. I'm glad I learned that. I learned that like when I was like 23. But, you know, I don't know. I think partially like the school process makes you think otherwise, or even just, I don't know. I don't know where, I guess, I don't know. Anyway, so, okay, so I want to talk about craft, and this is something I'm a little passionate about, weirdly, because at one time, very early in my career again, like I went to the Springville Museum Springville Museum of Art, and I like was part of like a show they do every year. It's called the Spring Salon, and it's a big deal.
I've juried that. It's a massive show.
It's a massive show. It's an event. And then I was kicked out. I didn't make the show. And it's funny because like I'd made a whole bunch of other shows at that point, and bigger ones, like national ones, and and so on. And I asked the curator, like amazingly, he was like the one there picking up work. I was like, why didn't I make the show? Because I've made other shows. And he's like, well, because photography is not an art medium, of course. I was like, okay.
What?
And so then I left, and it was the director of the museum, and I later found out. And then I went home. I wrote an angry essay on how photography was an art medium. And then little did I know that was actually a thing like in the 20s or something, 1920s.
Yeah.
And so it was like a debate that had been over for almost 100 years, but it was like still going on. But ever since then, I've always felt, in a way, I've had craft people have had issues with my medium, because I think photography changed craft. I mean, that was even its influence. It changed the role of art schools, right? So it's inevitable that's going to happen. So anyway, what do you feel is the role of craft in art? I mean, this is a big question. I mean,
You know what's tricky is you're comparing it to photography.
well, you can do it. I mean, but it goes over to sculpture. I mean, photography, right, took the burden of being realistic off, right? That no longer became a valuable skill, right?
But I'm thinking contextually and time-wise, artificial intelligence is having a similar.
Oh, geez, that's right now.
Sure.
Artificial intelligence is going to really radically change
It's a
craft.
similar conversation with. So I had a pretty negative experience at my last gallery at CU. We were working with an artist, Nicole Hebron, who you might know,
LA
based in
based.
LA,
Yeah.
but was at UMOCA for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous artist, one of the leading artists in the world using artificial intelligence, trying to push boundaries.
Oh wait, was she a curator or was she an artist?
Both. She's a curator artist, so she's an artist who shows in galleries, and she was a curator at UMOCA. Still curates shows. So
That's politically a hard thing to do, but she did.
very difficult. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's an art professor, and we had a student come in, and she had created this great series about, they were sort of proud boys as women, and what does AI say about this? And there were a lot of exoticized women holding torches and machine guns in front of churches. And if the visitor had read the artist's description, she was pushing back against AI and wanting us to look at the dangers of what is AI saying, how is it changing craft? Did I make this art as an artist? She very much did make this art.
She was questioning all of it.
Yeah, she was questioning all these things, right?
Uh-huh.
And she was pushing the boundaries. She was saying, well, what is craft in art? For her, conceptually, the ways she was trying to break the rules of AI, that sort of became her artwork and her practice.
Yeah.
But we had someone come in and tear the artwork in half, and she took a Sharpie and
Wow.
wrote F your AI art, because she was a young art student, terrified that AI is going to take away her design job. So I understand the frustrations, because that is going to happen, right? AI is going to take jobs, unfortunately, but it also is a tool. And just like the camera, it can become part of your craft. And so for artists, I think in order for something to be art with a capital A, you need to be trained as an artist. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to go to school, though that definitely helps, but you've got to go through some training, right?
Yeah.
I think you have to be aware of the conversation, what's happening in the world, what is art. You have to be aware of the question of aesthetics. Something doesn't have to be beautiful, but you've got to be aware of that whole conversation of what are aesthetics, why do things look the way they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have to have craft. You brought up, before we started recording, Duchamp's urinal. He didn't make the urinal, and that wasn't his craft, but conceptually, putting that into the Armory show in 1913 as a sculpture, that was his artwork. He was trying to get visitors to question, well, what is art? Why is something art? Pushing different boundaries, using ideas as his paintbrush instead of oil paint.
I mean, so my background's in architecture and in design, architectural history and design, and that conversation is long there, right? Of like, is design art, and when does it go from a designed, let's say chair to sculpture and vice versa? And
Like Frank Lloyd Wright, right, goes into sculpture kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to find with me, I have a very broad kind of embrace of art and of creativity. And so I all of it falls under my umbrella. And of course, I'm aware it's a tension point in a conversation and has long been. But you can look at even the history of painting, Western painting, and there's a ranking and a hierarchy for a long time that historical painting or religious painting is higher, if you will, than genre or other things. So, I mean, I think that some of it, it's contextual, it's based on our culture. I think some of it's an artifice. I think that, I don't know, for me, I tend to delve so much more into just creative process and creative practice and embrace it from the widest perspective possible. And that's probably part of what you're hearing is I'm a museum educator. So museum education, and as an educator, it's all about access. It's access to art experiences, and it's changed a lot too. Whereas Jeff is coming more from a curatorial perspective, and so mine is less about maybe placing judgment, and it's more about how do we create meaningful. But although certainly Jeff does this as a curator, and all curators do now, but how do you create meaningful art experiences where people can come away thinking about something or moved by it? So I think for me, craft plays into it. I have a very broad definition of art and creativity.
That's interesting. I mean, to me, craft is a means to an end, right? I mean, if you need craft to accomplish what you do, and again, like AI, I mean, tools are changing. So all of a sudden, maybe like a lot of the craft that Pixar had is no longer done by their RenderMan software. Like, it's much more accessible to everybody. Like, you can make there's an animated movie coming out that costs $30 million. It's being done by some AI company, and it was $30 million in 9 months. Sounds like a lot, but for a movie, like a Pixar movie would take $300 million in 2 years.
Huh.
So it's really, really fast. So it really compressed a lot of the elements of craft. But of course, what it comes down to is it a Finding Nemo? Does it have like a story that resonates with people? I mean, and so that's on the movie end, and it's the same thing on, in a way, like when you see Michelangelo's David, right? I mean, Renaissance, you don't think like, wow, what great craft, unless it's kind of like what you do. You just think like, wow, that's a cool statue. I mean,
I do think when you see it in person and you're standing beneath it, you are.
Oh, but I mean, nobody knows what goes into marble work nowadays. I mean, they don't know. I mean, really, it's astonishing if you're like working art and you've like studied it, like you're totally impressed by the craft. But like, I'm just talking like somebody who goes and stands in line and sees it. And there's a reason why they stand in line to see, right? Because they say Venus de Milo. I mean, I see every time I go back to France or Italy, I see these sculptures, and they always still amaze me. I mean, it never gets old.
Yeah.
Except for the Mona Lisa, I'd no longer fight to get to the front. Not worth the effort.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So so again, so it's a means to the end. But this is a thought I had about craft recently, and I'll get your opinion on it. Is that craft in a way? I think, and this means I maybe even like why so. President Eisenhower and President George Bush are big painters. People may not know that because they really didn't have, and I think they would even say they really didn't have something to say, but they liked the act of painting. And I think craft can give you a feeling of control about your life. And so those two guys who were pivotal players in wars they couldn't control. You can't control the outcome of battle. You can't control the outcome of war. But they can control the oil and their watercolors on their canvas. And so I think it made them kind of like a kind of therapy for them, that craft gave them peace because it made them feel like they had control. And I think that actually might be an important reason why some artists are drawn to craft, is that they like the feeling of control over the medium.
And I think it's more than just a feeling too. So when we've both worked with him, Jaime Belkin Garzon he was at Harvard Medical for 17 years. He's head of, I'm going to get it mixed up, but he's at Children's Hospital
in Denver.
And he's part of like gastrointestinology, and he's an artist. And so at USU, we have just submitted a proposal for funding with us, Children's Hospital, University of Colorado, and Harvard to do a study on kids who have anxiety. And there have been studies like this, but surprisingly, no one's put someone in an MRI and have them do art activities and see what happens to their brain.
Are you serious? No one's done that?
Yeah, and how does that connect physically to the body?
Is it the brain as well? I just knowing from some of what he's talked about. So our gut, he's taught us, has neurons, just like the brain has neurons. So
Yeah,
is it also
it
watching
is.
the
Yes,
gut and the
yep.
brain?
So
Okay,
it's watching
yeah.
what happens to your brain and how do those neurons transfer physically to your body, to your gut, as you're making art. And people have long said, well, art has therapeutic qualities, it can help
Oh, I
you
believe
with
it.
issues. But this will be one of the first studies that actually looks at the neurons firing in your brain and how they're connected physically to your body. Like what physical sensations are you experiencing when you make art, and how's it affecting your mind?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's groundbreaking research, because if we can actually come up with scientific fact that art has these benefits and can physically and mentally help you, that opens up a whole new field.
No, it does. And honestly, I think people find it like two really great artists I know. One of them, I'm going to leave off names because I don't know if they want me talking about medical conditions, but they're really, really great. And I have a lot of respect for them. But one of them has struggled with cancer their entire life. And again, like this person can stand in front of a wall and with no paint covering, paint a mural without making a single mistake because they have painted so much, so carefully. I mean, their craft is that spot on. And it's funny, sometimes I'm like, well, you sure you don't want to put on like a apron or something? Like, nah. I mean, they're just in like their nice clothes, because they're like, they never get paint on themselves. And they can do it for hours, for like days even. And then another person I know who does these really wonderful, I'm not going to describe it too detailed, like really wonderful portraits that are just so intricate and amazing. Her sister, and I talked with them about this, had a severe neurological defect, and so her mother would just have her draw while they're in the hospital waiting rooms dealing with her sister's her problems, and it was kind of a way she coped with the stress and the wait. And again, I think that has a lot of value, but it's interesting for me because on my end, and partially why I think definitely why I'm a photographer, like I don't like boring and repetitive tasks. Even boring and repetitive tasks that happen, I classify them as boring, but repetitive tasks, like, even ones in photography, like some people, like I do not like processing film, which is weird because I own a photo lab, but I can do it. I can do a lot of things, but I just really, really don't like doing them. Like I don't find it satisfying. And if I can have somebody else do it, like if the budget allows or whatever, I don't do it. So, I do think like craft is a means to the end, and so an abdication of craft can just be laziness, and you're just not, and that happens a lot with art students. I've been in art school, and you can turn a toothbrush as homework, or cosplay for homework, and it's like, that's cosplay, you're not saying anything. So I don't know. Again, it's a debate, and it's something, unless you've been in art school and seen the range, is like, I don't know, it's hard to express to people.
There's some people who will spend hours and days and months trying to come up with why this toothbrush in this context could be art, right? I
Yeah.
think there are ways that you can do it, but again, this conversation, you have to have the skill, you have to put in the time. Sorry for all the beeps. I don't know how to turn those off and
No,
on.
that's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's time. You're right. Again, in contemporary art, of course, lately the famous one is like the duct taped banana to the wall, right?
Yes,
That's been-
Maurizio Catalan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like to me, it's like, I'm like, wow, when that came out, I was like, geez, he made artwork that made the mainstream media. Good for him. I knew it was going to be big. It's like, people are like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, it made mainstream media. Not much art makes mainstream media, so good for him.
Part of his brilliance, I actually love him as an artist.
Mhm.
So much of his work is a critique on the art world. So that MCA Chicago wanted to give him a solo show after he had retired from art. And he said, I don't want to have any of my work hung on the walls ever again. And so was it MCA or was it Guggenheim? Maybe it was the Guggenheim, actually. And so they hung his art in the middle of the museum, suspended from the ceiling, nothing touching the wall.
Oh, wow.
That was brilliant.
That's also an insurance risk. So.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so much of his work is making fun of the fun of the art world. He at the Venice Biennale, which is sort of the Olympics for art.
Yeah.
It's spread over the whole island of Venice, and you can
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's an incredible experience. And he was assigned at a church, and people would come with their little fancy booklets to find the art, and he'd be hidden up in some window, hurling jokes at the visitors and making fun of their clothes or something, as a critique on not making fun of them as people, but as a critique on the whole art consumption and himself. Right? Why is this banana worth $5 million or whatever it's worth?
Yeah.
Duct taped to the wall that anybody can reproduce. So he's very aware of it.
Yeah. In fact, I have a dream. This is a secret dream. And if you want to, I mean, anyway, my secret dream is to make a sculpture garden, but all of copies. And like you can buy like a copy of a Jeff Koons sculpture that would be like tens of millions of dollars for like $5,000. I mean, there's people who make them. And
Yeah.
and like, you know, and sculptures you could just, there's absolutely no way you could show in a garden environment for security reasons, among others. And like the Greek boxer sculpture, you know, Rodin,
Uh-huh.
or whatever. I mean, all these just
Yeah.
huge, but they're just blatant copies, but they're close copies. And I'll call it the fake copy garden. And then people can come and walk around sculptures.
Well, you did a show
Like,
like that.
honestly, it's just in some ways. You did that?
Well, we did it as grad students at BYU. We the show was to research what were the most popular posters from major museum gift shops. And what we did then was we hung it as if they were real. So putting
Oh, there
the
you go.
elaborate gold, carved frames that was about the wall color, the labels. But what we did is we used it as a teaching moment to say, there's so much kind of design wise, so many cues that when you walk into an art museum or an art experience that are cueing you into, and now in that case we were being satirical, right? Like we were saying, if you put enough fancy on this, if you put enough things that are coded, a traditional art museum, you're going to have this amazing experience. But really what it was doing was teaching the purpose of what wall color does, the purpose of lighting, and certain ways of lighting create importance, and even how you think about contemporary art. If you take it off a pedestal, then is it art? Is it not? When it's on a pedestal, then somebody, a curator, a museum, has lended its authority to call it art. So I think that, that's
Well, and even
always
Las Vegas has a bit of that,
conversation.
right?
Oh yeah.
When they've got an Eiffel Tower there,
Yep.
and you go to Caesar's Palace, and they're all
The
like you said,
Laocoon,
yeah, the
and
famous.
They've got David. Yeah.
Yeah.
they do have David.
And the great thing is, when you go, you see tourists taking selfies in front of these supposed Greek and Roman sculptures as if they're real when they're styrofoam copies, covered in glaze.
I think they know it's not real.
I don't know. I don't know.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess there's a debate like real. In fact, honestly, I'm having an idea. Like, whatever. Like, if anybody out there has a curatorial program, it would be great to have like your curatorial program have a collection of like prints of artwork, and then you say, okay, so this is our permanent collection. You make a show out of it.
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't have to worry about security. They wouldn't have to worry about handling, but a big thing about being a curator is how to do a cheap show out of your existing collection. That's still
Right. That's right.
I was going to say what a lot of people don't realize is no, you don't get every work of art that you dream to have in a show. And so like, how do you still keep the thesis of the show moving forward when you have to, in the planning process, substitute works and to get there. But yeah, it's rare that you, for lots of reasons, things don't travel. They're not going to.
Being in the West,
Yep.
lots of museums on the East Coast will not lend to places in the West because the climate's too dry, and it will crack their paintings.
No, makes sense. Yeah. No, yeah. I can definitely see that. And no, more than that, there's just also just major cost issues and so on. Again, people like how much money these things are worth is like insane sometimes. It's worth that much. It's supply and demand. There's only a certain amount of Vermeers, and a lot of people want the Vermeer, so the price is worth a lot. So Yeah, but anyway, and also it'd be fun because you could actually do a Van Gogh show. I mean, you could like do a show that would be absolutely impossible to do financially. Like,
Well, and this gets back into your craft question and
yeah,
authenticity with 3D printers. In fact, there are companies out there who are making 3D reproductions of impressionist paintings, but down to the individual brushstroke.
oh, interesting.
They can
Wow.
actually create an exact replica of the texture and the depth of a painting. And color mixing is so high quality now. And yeah, and you start to ask the question, well, am I going to have the same experience from this reproduced thing that's down to the micrometer as the original thing?
Because I mean, you could buy like copies, like commission people in China or something to do a painting. I remember and
Yeah,
stuff. And I
yeah.
remember even one of my graduate students with me, did something like that. But yeah, no, that'd be great. Anyway, I'm just pro more people seeing stuff because it's so hard to see this stuff. Like, unless you travel a lot and it's super expensive, you just can't see it. And I want more people to see it. To me, it's a frustrating thing. I mean, with
Absolutely.
movies, right? I can recommend a movie and then they can just watch it, and they're seeing
Yeah,
pretty good. I'm
yeah.
sure it's not Lawrence of Arabia in the 70 millimeter print or whatever, but like they're getting Lawrence of Arabia on their TV. It's fine. So I do think like art. I mean, that's another thing about the culture of art, and I do think this is a mechanism in it. It does function as a status symbol for really rich people, and I mean, and that's just a brutal truth of it. And you see it at the
Yeah.
Biennale, you see it at the Miami Art Fair. I mean, and and I mean that's fine. I'm glad they're appreciating it. I mean, they could buy an NBA team. Maybe they have an NBA team as well. But
It's true. It's
but
true.
it's like, well, we own the Miami Heat and we own two Van Goghs. Yeah, that's cool.
Yes.
So, um, and that's perfectly fine, and they keep it going in a lot of ways. I mean, it's like to make a piece of artwork takes a lot of effort, and so
It
it's
does.
not and it's not mass produced. There's no way to making molds and mass producing something takes a lot of money too. But this type of stuff isn't going to sell at scale, so you really need these people to kind of push
Yeah,
the medium around,
you do.
and
Well, and
yeah.
they so there's a whole system that helps support artists, right? In terms of living and,
Yeah.
everything you're describing is time consuming and
In the
so,
U.S. system, like some kind, although even Australia used to have better support of artists, Canada did. That's all fading. You really do need a market for artists to make a living. You need people to buy their art so that they can put a roof over their head. And then the problem is it's really the top 1% that everyone is collecting.
Mhm.
And there's this 99% of artists who are amazing and having museum shows, but it's very difficult to make a living.
Yeah, no, I saw a video artist speak at Sundance, the Sundance Film Festival, but she was a video artist. And she
Uh,
had also been part of a show at the Whitney. Yeah, it was the Whitney. And she said at Sundance, she's like, okay, so I'm at the Whitney. I'm talking to all these artists, and I'm realizing that they're really financially stable. Like, if you're in the Whitney and you're an artist, like, you're pretty financially stable. I am not financially stable.
yeah,
Like, I can make a DVD of this and like 5 people will buy it, and it costs me a lot of money to make it. So like doing high production value video art is not profitable. And it was amazing she was talking about it, because I mean that's the truth. Because no one wants to collect video art because it's too reproducible, right? I mean,
yeah. How do you
you
control that?
can't. Yeah, you're like, I spent $10 million on your video art, and then all of a sudden it's on YouTube. Does that,
yeah.
Yep.
you know?
And a
So,
lot of video artists will try and control that, right, so that it can't get out. But that's very
but you
difficult.
can find it. I
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
Again, my copy. I've got a collection on my YouTube of video art that I shouldn't be able to see.
Yeah.
People come in with an iPhone and they video it, and then it's on YouTube, right?
Uh-huh. That's true.
But yeah. So I mean, that goes to the whole craft thing, and I mean, but that affects the culture of it. I mean, again, it's like, to me, it's like when I was at Miami Art Fair. Is that what they call it? I don't know. It's Art Fair Miami. What's the name for
It's
it?
Art Basel, Miami
Art,
Beach.
Art Basel, Miami Beach. That's it. Yeah, and it's fantastic. Honestly, like every art program should be there, because it's the only place in America, anyway, where you get enough of the art community together that you can actually kind of see the whole industry take place. Like the publications, the fashion companies, the people who actually buy stuff are there, the people who kind of view the stuff, and I mean, it's just a fantastic experience. But I mean, and so, what do you feel about like the taste, how taste has changed in contemporary art over the years, and what do you feel the future is? Because I feel, you know, well, I'll let you speak first, but I have opinions on this.
Do you want to?
I mean,
You,
again, this was a huge question.
contemporary art's not.
This
Yeah.
is like PhD thesis questions. I'm sorry, but
So I'll
Well,
let you comment on taste.
there's the book about the $10 million shark, which is a depressing read. It's all about how Damien Hirst organized his own exhibition because no one was looking at their art, the young British artists, and so they got in with a marketer and they made this sensational show, and now all of these artists, Tracy Emin, their work is worth millions. The art world, there's so many amazing artists out there. For example, you mentioned the Spring Salon in Springville. So I juried that one year, and there's like 1,200 works submitted. It's massive.
yeah, it's huge.
And it took 2 days to jury. And I remember somebody pulled us aside and said, okay, we're not supposed to influence you, but you didn't choose this painting as part of the exhibition. And it had been placed on the floor, it wasn't well lit, and that painting ended up winning Best of Show. But it was one that we had juried out because we were tired, we hadn't had lunch, it was bad
Maybe
luck.
at the wrong time, yeah.
Yeah, so much of it is so subjective. But the future of art is difficult because so much of art is controlled by the galleries in New York, the sort of blue chip system. So,
And the collectors in New York too.
well, yes, and then the collectors. So when I worked at the Hirshhorn, our annual budget to buy art was like 1.3 million a year. And that sounds like a lot of money,
It's not.
but yeah, when a Damien Hirst is $100 million, or lots of artists sell for $1 to $10 million for an artwork, how can you build a collection and keep up? So you rely on your donors,
Yeah.
and the donors, the collectors, rely on the galleries because the galleries very much choose who they're going to sell to. You can't just go in with money and buy something, unless it's on the secondary market, right? Like at Christie's or an auction house. But to buy a painting from a gallery, they are very choosy on who they will sell that painting to. A lot of times it depends on, are those collectors on the board of a major museum? Because they know that you can only put so many paintings in your house, and eventually all of these artworks are going to be donated to the Met or MoMA. And so first pick goes to the donors who are associated with those big museums. And it sort of goes down the line. So, and like Art Basel Miami that you mentioned, it's so expensive it's in a giant convention warehouse. And for a gallery to have a space in the convention center is a ton of money.
Oh, really? How much is it? I haven't looked
I
at it.
don't know now, but I know it's tens of thousands of dollars.
Is it really? Wow.
Probably,
And they sell a lot of stuff, though. I mean, that's the amazing thing. People are actually there buying stuff.
because they'll sell a $3 million painting right there, right? And it'll pay for the whole thing. But curators don't necessarily have access to that fair anymore like they used to. Now it's certain collectors, you have to buy a certain amount of art every year. And so what happens is there are these ancillary fairs.
Kind of these spin-off.
Yeah, you probably saw these outside of the main art fair. And that's where a lot of curators go because they can find art that's not part of the market, that has this generosity to it of I'm making this art because I'm passionate about it and I have to get this off my chest. I have to make this work. And it's not about the market and about how much it's going to sell for and all these kinds of things. So I think in the future, I don't know what's going to happen with sort of an international or national income for everybody with artificial intelligence coming and affecting jobs. I'm hopeful that a lot of us will have more time to just be creative and that sort of our basic needs. Some just as a big picture, right? Like that as the economy changes and AI affects jobs, if that happens, I think art will be able to be made the sort of art for art's sake, which is how Australia and Canada used to be. That you didn't make art for the market, you made art because this is something that you need to make.
Yeah.
And that changes what you're making and why you're making it and how people are experiencing. And there are plenty of artists who do that, tons of artists who do that. But a lot of times they have to have a full-time job and then do that on the weekends and evenings. And so to be able to commit yourself to be an artist like that, I don't know, it would be exciting to see if that happens in the future.
So I might take a little bit, maybe a different perspective. The shifting that I've seen in art museums, the shifting that I've seen in experience with art is much about collaboration. It's about the audience. It's about bringing them in and community. And so the artists that I'm seeing that are having a big impact are taking into consideration not only who's looking at the art, but how can I bring them into the process of creating it? And I don't know, I think that maybe art for art's sake could be down the road again, but I actually think that more powerful art is less about just the artist's expression of a passionate idea, but rather someone who can really be relevant and in conversation, not with the art market, not with this kind of elite, can be in conversation with community and can truly, art that has the power to affect change. They are working with people and creating voice for those who don't have voice. And so I just think I see that continuing to deepen, is that if you want to be a relevant artist, it can't be about yourself. It's got to, in my opinion. Now, I'm an
No, that's interesting. No,
I think it's a little elite to make it about yourself and your own self
well,
expression.
in a way, I mean, and this goes to, to the funding thing, is that like in Europe, you see a lot more of kind of sculpture, environmental sculpture, because they're paid for by city councils and they want something the city can experience.
Well, you would call that art for the common good,
Yeah.
design for the common good, architecture for the common good, city
Yeah.
planning for the common good. That is the mindset for sure in Europe.
Yeah, but the same thing is like I have a good friend of mine from art school. She's like a really successful artist in England, but it's interesting. Like she's always getting these commissions by various cities. She just did one in Brazil and stuff, and she even is exhibiting internationally now, where she's been in England for a while. But it's interesting because she doesn't have anything she can take home. I don't know. It's like she's always got a lot of great sculptures and environmental photographs of her work, but I just feel bad that she just doesn't have like something like, hey, here it is, and it still exists. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's, but no, that's certainly right. But then the collector, right, wants something they can stick in their living room, and that's my theory on why New York in particular and New York collectors are, because the New York, let's say, like the New York apartment is really like you can live in a modest apartment or a $20 million apartment, but it's still an apartment. It's kind of like you're on a different street 5 over or something. It's really not that big. Whereas like if you live in Texas or Florida, you can own tigers. You can have 1,000 acres. You can have heads of cattle. They have a lot of other avenues to kind of like have status and money and show it off. You can own 100 cars, 1,000,000 cars, right? And because you have space and you have but in New York you got that apartment, so you can put a $20 million painting on the wall. And and so it's like, and that in a way is kind of and you spend a lot of time indoors because the weather's not always so great, and so you want to make your environment nice. And so I think that's why, in particular, the New York visual art market is so powerful. But I do think I don't know, just to me, my feeling on like as far as like the future of how like it can go, like I read this book on Peggy Guggenheim, and reading it, you're like, oh, that explains the past 50 years of art in a lot of ways. Her in particular.
Collected and
what she collected, what she did, her aesthetics, her tastes, her ideas, so on. A lot. She's really
elsewhere.
Like, the person. Anyway, but I feel like you go to contemporary art museums now, or like I was in the Tate Modern, at the Tate Museum in London, and it was like they had a show of Yoko Ono up, and all the publication and stuff was like Yoko Ono in her 30s, but like Yoko Ono was like, I don't know, 80, 90. She's like crazy old. It's like they're really kind of stuck on the 60s and 70s. And I do think in part just because, a lot of things changed then. A lot of new aesthetics were changed. Peggy Guggenheim, that generation of collectors really set a lot of aesthetics. And I just don't think that's going to continue. It can't. But at the same time, I don't know where it's going to go. Entirely.
You hit on
It's like we're kind of having a generation of collectors go to the great gallery in the sky, and things are going to be different.
Yeah. The 60s,
the ones that were like movers and shakers in the 70s.
Yeah, the 60s were pivotal. On the one hand, I think that threshold is just going to move. I know a lot of artists from the 60s who people don't want to buy their work that they're making now when they're in their 70s and 80s. They want the work that was made at this pivotal moment, right? Even though they're making the same kind of thing. It's valuable because of the time period when it was made. But the 1960s are so pivotal because if you look at the trajectory of art history around the world, for recorded history, art is paid for by kings, churches, and very wealthy patrons. Yeah. And it's not until you have the rise of a middle class and there are always exceptions to this as soon as you make a blanket statement, but it's not until the rise of the middle class in the mid-19th century when normal people can start buying art, right? Before that, it had to be made for a church or a castle or a pyramid or something like that. And so you have that 100 years, 1850 to 1950, for the first time art starts to get more and more abstract, from post-impressionism all the way through Jackson Pollock, and so 1960s is the birth of postmodernism. That's when artists said art does not have to be about Jesus. Art does not have to be about
conquering
conquering some country. It doesn't have to be about an emperor. Art can be about these different ideas, about empowering women, about racial identity, about politics. And so it's the first time that art opens up to this idea, this postmodern idea, and we're still in it. We haven't moved on to the next. Art historians love to put cookie cutters and sort of classify, and we don't know you're right, we don't know what's next. We're still in that moment, that 1968 to 1973, where art just exploded and became about, even though Duchamp was actually very...
I'd say Duchamp's urinals like the Sistine Chapels, the one everyone's trying to copy.
It is. He's far ahead of his time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
We're still in that moment that we haven't... And I also think that's why there's a big return to painting every 10 years. People say, oh, painting's out, painting's dead. And then after 10 years, they want paintings again. Because
you want something nice and pretty on your wall.
Yeah. And tactile and physical. And
I mean, I think that... as you're both saying, sure, there's this kind of art system that's long been there. What you were describing with Peggy Guggenheim and the 50s and the 60s. I mean, you can look back to many different periods of history and see that kind of what Jeff is talking about, that rich patronage that really controls the art market, if you will. I think what's hugely different now is just we're so globalized, we're connected with the internet, the things are democratized in a way that with social media that, what 15-year-olds create, I'm sorry, you can't, a lot of 40-year-olds can't create. It's just their use and understanding of a global language is so different in this younger generation. Our daughter's 20 and thinking about her and her friends. And so I think I actually don't think we know exactly where it's going, but I have a feeling, again, it is much more, I don't think it's about a few controlling it. I think it's much broader, and a lot more people are going to participate in the art making experience and be relevant. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, what's created on social media, it's not quality, it's not this, it's not that. But there's a voice that's being shared that's in an artistry that is impacting people that, whether or not you agree it's art, and I'm not talking about you personally, I'm just saying we or anyone. It's just, we the people. I think there's tremendous opportunity for pretty much anyone to participate. So,
yeah, well, I mean, social media. I feel like social media is such an impactful medium or just means of distribution or whatever it is. That is just something. It's kind of like how TVs and movies were like a big bombshell in the 50s and 60s, and so like before them, like literature, novels were a bigger deal, dime store novels and so on. And we're going through the same thing. Social media is just a bombshell that's destroying the movie studios. And I just can't get over that Paramount sold for $8 billion. That's a lot of money, but wow. And it was hard for it to sell. It took a long time for it to sell. The Boston Celtics are worth $6.5 billion.
And it's a vehicle, right? Social media is a vehicle that's not necessarily the art form, it's the content creation. But what's interesting is Paramount and just those handful of, we went to the Academy, the Motion Academy.
Yeah, the National Museum.
In LA.
Oh, yeah.
And when you look at the history of film in the US, it's just a couple handfuls of studios that really shaped that and controlled it for a while. But now you can create your own full-length movie in a way that you don't have to have those same resources and that same, same access to certain networks. And so I don't know. I just think it's interesting to think about that, that art, it shouldn't be controlled by just a few. And I think it's exciting that we're actually moving into and have been moving into a space where access is just absolutely opened up in a way that you can create and not be held back by some of the things in the past.
No, it's true. I mean, here in Utah, of course, it's like weirdly Utah's become kind of a media center because of the internet, whereas that would have been just unthinkable before the internet.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, and it's yeah. Anyway, it's, I guess, like, I wonder if there's going to be like media influencers who will take on the mantle of an artist. I mean, like, try to like get their work into museums. Like, I don't know. That's
I'm not saying it's all quality, just
Yeah.
because.
No. It's,
No,
I
it's
mean,
just, but I
some
just
things are
like saying,
rewarded, certain things aren't. But it's not like sensationalism is not rewarded in the academic
That's
level.
true.
but whereas you had to be part of a certain system of where you went to school, where you had your first show at the particular first gallery,
No.
city, et cetera, get collected by certain people, that it's blown open of like how people can learn about you and your art. So I think with that comes, just a lot. Jeff, you always talk about it, kind of the curatorial process with a contemporary artist and finding contemporary artists is a bit like being a baseball scout. Like, like you're looking at so many different artists, and it's hard to call, okay, well, who's the next one that's going to really be relevant? And but that was a much more kept. And I mean, not to say there's still gatekeeping that happens, but I do think that it's more accessible now.
It is, and there are also plenty of collectors. I would say a majority of the collectors that I've met are the good guys, if you will, that they are supporting artists because they love artists.
Yeah,
They
they
like
love art. They sincerely do. Like, if
Yeah.
you really meet a collector, it's amazing how important it is to them.
It is, yeah, and they'll found museums, and museums can't exist without collectors and people with means who are willing to give that money to support. And so it's a whole ecosystem of people who make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, kind of just, that's what the internet does too. Like, again, I don't know if I've said this before, but like when I was growing up in Utah, like I saw a new car purchased once. It was like a Nissan Altima. It was kind of a big deal. And now it turns out a guy who grew up next door to me owns the Utah Jazz. And so all of a sudden we have like that kind of money kicking around.
Yeah.
And he was just a guy. He was like in my scout troop, and we burned sagebrush together. And it's like the internet, and he did a tech company, obviously, but the internet made that kind of wealth possible in Utah,
Yeah.
whereas previously Geneva Steel and
Yeah.
BYU were kind of it.
Right.
And the richest guy in my high school was her father invented a new way of burning coal. So, and he was like rich, but he wasn't like he could buy the Utah Jazz rich.
Yeah.
And so again, it's just like, and you have to have people like that kick around a spare income. But it's interesting to me. Especially Art Miami. This was a funny experience. Is Art Basel Miami? Is that like I saw this sculpture made out of cardboard. It's 3-dimensional, protruded from the wall, and it was of a wolf. And I was like, well, this is pretty cool. I was like, how much is this? And which is kind of a gauche thing to ask. Well, I'm like, whatever. Because I'm curious. Like, this was the coolest thing. You see a lot of work there, and this was by far the neatest, like, freshly made piece of artwork I'd seen. And they said, they're like, well, it's only $35,000. I say only, but for the art world, that is pretty expensive. And I was like, oh, well, that's great. And they said, but it's sold. I'm like, shoot, can I ask who bought it? And they're like, oh, the Waltons. I'm like, what the heck? Walton. And so it's so funny because I was just like, man, that's weird. Like when the 7th richest person in the world was like standing right where I said and had the same thought I had.
Yeah.
And they bought it. And good for them. But again, that shows how it spread. So that sculpture is going to Arkansas. And there's people participating. And honestly, the heavy hitters are the Waltons. There's nobody with more money than them buying art at a large level.
Well, but they've made a commitment. I don't know all their motivations, but they did build and open the Crystal Bridges Art Museum there, and so they are collecting from all over the U.S. and
Yeah, they're making
and the internet.
Arkansas an art center. I mean,
Yeah,
that's something.
They are.
Again, that would have been unthinkable. Unthinkable.
Well, and then
Sure.
the art of the state. She's paid more money for art than anybody else in the world, I think, at this point.
Is this Alice?
Yeah, Alice Walton. She'll
Walton?
drop $100 million on a painting. But they also have this show, Art of the State, where they will highlight unknown artists from every state across the country.
Yeah.
And so you'll have a Van Gogh next to somebody from Provo, Utah, who hasn't ever been in a museum show.
That's great. Yeah.
Pretty awesome, yeah.
No, in a way, she's like the new Peggy Guggenheim. She's just in Arkansas,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's a difference. And again, that would have been absolutely unthinkable when Peggy Guggenheim was doing her thing.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, just as the world changes and the internet, again, we're still like social media. I'm amazed. AI now, it's just crazy. I feel like so lucky to be alive during this time that
Yeah.
I get to like watch these major civilizational transitions happen. And then I like even kind of feel bad for like my parents, like what they got to live through is like word processing or something. I'm like, wow, Microsoft Word and Word Perfect, good deal. You know?
We took typing classes on typewriters in
Yeah.
junior high.
Yeah, exactly.
I've done word processing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, no, it's amazing. It's amazing how it influences art. It amazes who has a say in art and how we consume art and how we visualize art. In fact, actually, the Smithsonian did this, and I've encouraged every curator I meet to do it. None of them will, though. But like there's a series of YouTube videos done by the Smithsonian. I think it's the American Art one, and they're just the curator with bad lighting, with someone holding an iPhone explaining the painting, and these videos have millions of views.
Yeah.
And that's a way people can actually experience it rather than going to Washington D.C. and seeing the painting.
Yeah, because not everyone can do that.
Not everyone can do that. So I just feel like every museum should do the same series of videos. Just have a curator, and you don't have to overdo it. Just get an intern to hold a camera and video a curator talking next to every painting in the loop. You know, and I think that it'd be good for the curators. It's good for the museum, and it's good for the people. It's just a win all the way around. Get it out on social media.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's a lot of what Anne does with her art education.
Oh, really?
Well, yes.
Making it
I mean,
accessible.
I'm still going to always argue for seeing art in real life, and it doesn't have to be. Well, but what I mean is, it doesn't have to
They'll
be.
come and see the real thing after they see it on social media.
That's true.
Yeah,
They
but
know it exists. It's not-
my point is, it's not that you have to go see the big major pieces of art that you've been told historically are the important ones. Seeing any art that has been created by
local
some,
art.
whether it's a painting, whether it's a sculpture, whether it is going to theater production, a film, all of those things move you because what you're doing is you're experiencing something that's been created. So I think that,
No.
but I
Okay, yeah. Well,
say,
there's a lot of
get
bad
yourself
art out there.
There's a lot of bad art.
Festivals. I'm like, wow. 95% of it does not move me. We'll say that.
well, I do think there's obviously there's a
I think
balance.
any art that probably gets to you is probably pretty darn good. But yeah.
Well.
Also, as a former art teacher. Photographs of icicles. Yeah. No. It's funny though, in Utah, students would always show photographs of old buildings, and nobody would do that in Glasgow, even though there are a lot of old buildings. I think it's because there's just too common. But I see what you're saying. And also, I mean, that's the thing. You want people to participate and not just the rock stars, right? You don't want everyone, if only, to a music analogy, like if people only went to Taylor Swift concerts, we just would have a pretty boring music world.
Yeah.
Like you need those highly engaged people who will show up to that garage where that person's just trying something out. And and that certainly is the case. And to me, it's interesting. Like when I ran a gallery in my store in the front of it, because I just thought I had a lot of extra square footage, and then my store grew up so much we had to unfortunately quit the gallery. But it was interesting to like hang people's art up and just see like it's interesting. Like unfortunately, and this is just brutal truth, is like if someone doesn't have a household income of $200,000 a year, they're probably not going to buy a $1,000 painting. I mean, and you need to get those people in, but a lot of people will come to the show, and it's certainly a support because the artist likes people coming to see the show. But when the show's over, they need a few red dots by their painting to signal that was sold.
Yeah, and
And those red dots are important. So yeah, but
but you also find that person who's like, I'm not gonna, I want an art payment instead of a car payment. I'm gonna save
yeah.
up, and I want that $1,000 painting.
No,
Mhm.
it's true. I mean, yeah, and there's a great documentary about a guy who did that living in New York, and he
Yeah,
took like some very minor works of some major artists and made a really amazing collection. So,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's partially his taste and where he was at. But I mean, I do think like people should. I mean, original art is a lot of fun. It gives you a story. I feel to show like I got this here, and it's a fun way to kind of explore your taste. And this is a game I play with friends if we go to a museum and they're not into art. I ask what painting or whatever sculpture would you buy from this room, and then all of a sudden they have to have an internal aesthetic discussion of like which they can't just say I like it. They have to be like, well, I'd buy this one, and yeah, and so I mean, I do think that's great. I do feel that like I mean, it's a bummer to me. Like if I'm in a house that I know costs more than $5 or $10 million and I don't see original art, I'm kind of like,
Yes,
come on,
yes,
you could have had the budget.
yeah.
And I mean, I feel
More
like
frame than
interior designers or someone needs to be a liaison to those people to say, hey, you're of us, you should have original art because you can, and it will make your house look so much better. Like rather than putting on a different gabling, like channel some money into your art budget to hang on the wall. That's going to be the most important thing you do for even just them.
That's right.
I mean, they want to have an impressive house. Right?
Well, let's
Yeah.
find.
So I don't know. I mean, have you guys ever sold work or anything? Have you been on a commercial end of art?
Yeah.
Have you
No,
ever worked in a commercial
I mean,
gallery?
we've bought art, but
You bought it, but yeah, I don't
yeah, we
know.
don't
I mean,
sell it at
yeah,
all. And in
but
fact, as a museum employee, we don't value art. Like we're not part of the
that's
but we're
appraisal.
not,
human
we're not
nature.
allowed
Yeah,
to.
like
Yeah,
ethically. So maybe that's what. Yeah. So we've never been in the gallery system. We've always been museums.
Yeah, that's even a accusation is that donors to museums will use the museum's reputation to beef up the value of their
Sure.
collection.
Yeah.
So and you know,
That
but
can happen.
yeah, but I mean, of course, like I mean, if you're in art purely for the money, you're just like are crazy. It's like
that's right.
a
That's right.
lot easier ways to make money, like a lot,
That's
like
right.
a lot. Yeah. So, yeah, well, that's really interesting. And to me, another interesting thing, again, like also like if you own an NBA team, maybe you should allocate a certain amount of budget to buy art and have an art museum.
Like in Texas, some of
Yeah,
those stadiums have incredible contemporary art at
yeah.
the football stadium.
Well, and actually in Denver,
Yeah,
where we
Denver.
just came, a certain percentage of advertising dollars spent for what downtown, it goes to digital art. That's
Oh,
then
that's interesting.
Yeah,
you'll know it
yeah.
better than me, but
So it's kind of like a digital
uh-huh.
advertising tax for art. No, that's cool. Yeah, no, and I mean a lot. I mean, and also like in Utah, like government buildings and stuff, they have a certain budget they have to allocate.
They do,
And
yeah.
Yep.
And there's the Zap
Mhm.
tax, which is awesome. The Zoo Arts
yeah,
and Parks, and
But even in Denver and other places, it not just to the arts, but it's specific to art acquisition for public art. So they're
yeah.
right when certain amount of tax dollars are spent, go or allocated
yeah,
to
Utah has
public
that
art.
too.
Hmm.
Oh, interesting.
Which is great.
Well, yeah, and that's I had a teacher of mine who sculpted elaborate door handles, and he's like, yeah, there's this budget of public buildings need to have art. Really, just is what keeps me going. Again, and he recognized that. So yeah, and again, maybe you should make it like if you're building a house that's super big, just
You
get some nice art. Just
dedicate a
get some
certain
nice art.
percentage
And
to
it
art.
goes, it shows you have taste. And if you don't have taste, hire a friend who does or something.
That's right.
Yeah. And honestly, I've actually outfitted a few of my richer friends' houses. I'm like, well, you'd like this would work well, this would work well, and I'm like, geez, I'm being like an art broker, and they'll buy it. I mean, that's a cool thing because like I have my art friends, I get them some stuff sold. I'm like, sold. I'm like, geez, I'm being like I'm being a curator, I mean, because I'm being a gallery person, but they're like actually my friends, and I don't get any sort of commission. So, but it's fun for me. So, anyway, if anybody wants to hire me to go to Art Miami and buy art for you, let me know in the comments. Well, that's great. Well, it's been really nice talking to you guys. Really wonderful conversation. And best of luck at Utah State. I'll certainly have to get up to your shows and stuff.
Yeah.
When's your first big show coming up? Or
Well, that's always the problem of a bigger museum is they have stuff scheduled a few years out. So trying to sneak in some small shows
oh yeah,
before, curate a show. But yeah, working on that. And I have to say, you doing this podcast is great
In
because
the movie world, they just cancel all their predecessors' work. I mean, that's what they do.
that's a temp. No, we've got some good shows coming up. But I think you having this podcast and people thinking about creativity and what are the different things that they can do and how can they support the arts and how can you be more aware of art is incredible. It's so important to have voices like yours because it creates a groundswell of support for artists and the importance of art being made and the role that it plays in our society. So really, really critical to have things like the RGB podcast.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
thank you.
thank you.
Yeah,
Maybe-
Mark, thank you so much for having us.
Maybe the greatest support I've done to the art is I hang out in the entrepreneurial world and I hang out in the art world, so I'm an intermediary. And I'm happy I got them money. I'm like, wow, good. I gave a friend, an illustrator friend, a couple $1,000s. Good deal. He deserves it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, well, thanks a lot again, and we'll be in touch. Best of luck in Logan, all right? Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
We'll see
Thanks,
you.
Mark.
Yes.